Honorable Chairperson, fellow South Africans, I greet you in the universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Honorable President, after, in your own words, 9 wasted years, last year you addressed this chamber in your inaugural SONA address at a time where young South Africans could not afford a single further wasted day. It was an address filled with promises made to a nation desperate for hope, particularly the millions of young South Africans fast becoming a forgotten generation without skills or jobs and set up to fail in our institutions of higher learning. Since then, there is a German proverb that has stuck with me, which claims that promises are like the full moon. If they are not kept at once, they diminish day by day. When you addressed us last week, one would have expected some reflection on the promises that you made. When scrutinizing them more closely, I can see why you chose not to do so. You promised that at the center of our national agenda in 2018 would be the creation of jobs, especially for the youth. Yet 25,000 additional young South Africans are unemployed, with the expanded youth unemployment rate increasing to 50.1%, the highest in the world. You promised a youth employment service initiative which will create 1 million paid internships over 3 years. Yet the YES initiative has less than 7,000 committed work experiences received, a mere 0.7% of what was promised, and it would take you at this rate 142 years to reach your 3-year target. You promised that the Minister of Higher Education will lead the implementation of free higher education. Yet as late as August last year, there were 75,000 students whose funding had still not been paid, which was only the tip of the iceberg, the most vulnerable of our students still being set up to fail. Minister Pandor, unfortunately, cannot lead anything and is completely out of touch. Mr. President, it's time to admit that you have got this one wrong. She only acts clever, but is clueless to the struggles that our students are going through. And I'm not going to be like the Honorable Willie Madisha and say hong, 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 because I don't care how a person says something, as long as they know what they are talking about and the ignorance is not making our students suffer. She came here in November and claimed that she is confident of a smooth start to the 2019 academic year. And on the 17th of January this year, she told Inside Education that she does not anticipate any funding and registration hiccups during the opening of our institutions. How wrong, Mr. President, can one person be? This is not something that you play with. A student has been murdered, so too a residence administrator. At this point, we should pay our condolences to the families of Mlungisa Madonsela and Dr. Yvette Taylor. It cannot be business as usual. Yesterday, I visited the Walter Sisulu University Ibika campus in Ngua. What confronted me, Mr. President, was painful. It was the real state of our nation. Hundreds of students standing helplessly outside in the pouring rain on the day that lectures officially started. Most students still unregistered. The institution owed R1 billion in outstanding debts, locking out poor NSFAS qualifying students, with NSFAS being in complete shambles, with student statuses not being updated and incoherent communication leaving students literally out in the cold without allocated accommodation. Postgrad student funding, embarrassing. BTech students still being asked to pay upfront payments. The same painful story plays out across the country, and the minister's response is to antagonize students and arrogantly call on students to focus on real concerns. This while she hasn't visited any of the universities where the crisis is playing out and exposed herself completely as being out of touch when she met with student leaders, out of touch being the label, Minister, that was applied to you from student leaders from your own political party. From your SONA, Honorable President, it would seem that you have also caught pandonitis, calling on student representatives and university authorities to them alone work together to find solutions to the challenges. Please balance us, Mr. President. How exactly do you expect students and universities by themselves to solve the problems, including government's failures in the NSFAS collapse and the inability to deal with the student debt crisis? Just the two of them must solve it? Where is your Tumamina? Or is that just the space that you keep asking us to keep watching? The tragedy is that 63% of NSFAS students have dropped out over a 5-year period, You and your government are setting up poor, mainly black students to fail. The situation is even worse at our TVET colleges, a sector you ignored in your address. Characterized by poor infrastructure and equipment, almost non-existent student services, outdated curricula, unequal student funding, and a decline in work-based training opportunities, 68% of TVET colleges have a completion rate of under 50%. And compared to private colleges, students at our TVET colleges are not being prepared to compete on an equal footing. Your government continues to prove itself incapable of building one South Africa for all, where all young South Africans can enjoy an equal footing irrespective of the circumstances of their birth. The DA has proven that where we govern, we put youth at the center of our agenda and have a track record of actually delivering. 600 million rand in economic savings have been generated through our red tape reduction and ease of doing business strategies in the Western Cape. The city of Cape Town was recognized as the top opportunity city in Africa, with its business support project already facilitating support for over 500 small and medium enterprises per year, and job seekers in the city are afforded the opportunity to ride the My City bus free of charge. Most tellingly, 50% of all new jobs created last year was created in the Western Cape, with the province having by far the lowest unemployment rate in the country and the fastest growth in employment. Fellow South Africans, imagine what we could achieve when leading a national government. When elected, we will introduce a voluntary national service, 1 year of income and skills development for school leavers, something that we are already piloting in the Western Cape through the Premier's Advancement of Youth program. We will create job centers throughout South Africa that provide information, advice, and free internet to job seekers. We will grow small business opportunities through increased funding assistance, removing blockages and red tape. We will prosecute and eliminate the practice of sex for jobs and carpet interviews, something that seems very prevalent amongst your officials and your politicians in your municipalities, including cash for jobs and corruption in allocating jobs. Listen to this one, Mr. President, and I hope you are listening. Under DA government, all matric students would receive a set number of free driving lessons, and we would waive the licensing fees for first-time applicants, something that is preventing our young people from getting jobs. Our bursaries to learners from low-income families will cover the comprehensive cost of study, so to ensure that learners have the necessary tools on time to pass. We will develop work and study apprenticeship programs, substantially increasing the involvement of companies to provide opportunities in new and existing fields. Mr. President, it is clear that even your government continues to perpetuate two South Africas. It is only the DA that has proven itself capable of building one South Africa for all.